Mirai discovered the true horror of the station while digging through the computer systems. She sat in the engineering room, surrounded by alien technology she had managed to hack, and read file after file of hunting records. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the data. "Captain," she said into her comm, her voice shaking, "you need to see this. I'm sending you the files now." On Gina's wrist display, information began appearing. Species names she didn't recognize. Dates going back a century. Video files marked with words like successful hunt and trophy kill. Numbers that made her stomach turn. Thousands of beings had died in this place. The Vraks had been doing this for so long that it had become normal to them. Just another business? Just another sport. Can we copy everything? Gina asked. Already done. I've got it all backed up on our ship's computers. Evidence of everything. Good, because we're not just escaping this place. We're making sure it never happens again. Gina studied the map on her display. I'm seeing something interesting in their patrol patterns. The Vraks are tiring. Tejo looked at her with confusion. Tiring? They're stronger than us? Stronger, yes, but not built for endurance. Gina pulled up biological data that Mirai had extracted from the station's database. Look at this. The Vraks are ambush predators. They're designed for short bursts of incredible speed and power, but their metabolism burns hot and fast. They need to rest between hunts. She smiled, but there was no humor in it. We're different. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Our ancestors on Earth would chase prey for hours, sometimes days. We can't sprint as fast as a deer, but we can keep jogging long after the deer collapses from exhaustion. We sweat to cool down so we don't overheat. We can keep going when other species have to stop. You want to outlast them, Tejo said with understanding. Exactly. They think this is a sprint. We're going to make it a marathon. Gina put her plan into action. Instead of hiding or setting traps, she started moving constantly through the station. She made sure the Vraks could track her. Every few minutes, she would appear on their sensors, then disappear again. She never stopped moving, never rested for more than a minute. The Vraks hunters gave chase. At first, they were confident. They were faster than the human. They would catch her easily. But every time they got close, she was already moving to another section. They would arrive at a location only to find she had left moments before. Hours passed. The Vraks began to slow. Their powerful muscles were built for explosive action, not sustained effort. They needed rest. They needed water. They needed to recover. But the human never stopped. She just kept moving, always one step ahead, always forcing them to continue the chase. One hunter, a veteran named Thresh, pursued Gina through the corridors with growing desperation. He was one of the best trackers in the clan. He had hunted hundreds of prey across dozens of worlds. But this human was different. Every time he thought he had her cornered, she was gone. Every time he stopped to catch his breath, she appeared on sensors in another sector. After 4 hours of constant pursuit, Thresh found himself in a dead-end corridor. He was panting, his scales slick with moisture. His muscles burned with fatigue. And there, at the end of the corridor, stood the human. She wasn't even breathing hard. Why? He gasped through his translator. Why don't you stop? Gina looked at him with cold eyes. Because that's what humans do. We don't stop. We don't quit. Our ancestors hunted animals to exhaustion on Earth. They would pick a target and follow it for days until it couldn't run anymore. You asked why I don't stop? She took a step forward. Because I'm human. Stopping isn't in our nature. Thresh tried to raise his claws to fight, but his body wouldn't respond. He collapsed to the floor, completely spent. Gina walked past him without another glance. She didn't need to kill him. He wasn't a threat anymore. She had broken him simply by refusing to stop. Throughout the station, other Vraks were experiencing similar problems. They had split up to search for the humans, but that meant they were all fighting separate battles. Mirai kept the environmental systems in chaos. Dongwu had fortified the holding area with the freed prisoners, making it impossible to assault without significant losses. Tejo was setting up explosive traps in key locations, and Gina just kept moving. She appeared on sensors here, then there, then somewhere else entirely. The Vraks couldn't predict her, couldn't catch her, couldn't rest because she never rested. In the control room, Krell watched his hunters fail one by one. Some were injured, some were exhausted. 2 had not reported in at all. His perfect hunting ground was falling apart, and it was all because of 4 humans. He pulled up information about Earth in the station's database. What he read disturbed him. Humans were persistence hunters. They had evolved to outlast their prey. Their ability to sweat meant they could regulate body temperature during extended activity. Their efficient breathing allowed them to maintain steady effort for hours. Their mental endurance was extraordinary. They simply didn't know when to quit. The Vraks had ambushed predators in their evolutionary history. They had evolved to be strong and fast for short periods, perfect for their original homeworld where prey could be killed quickly. But they had never encountered a species like humanity, a species that won not through strength or speed, but through the simple refusal to stop. Krell realized something that filled him with unfamiliar emotion. Fear. His clan had made a terrible mistake. They had judged humans by appearance, small, weak-looking, with no natural weapons. They hadn't understood that humanity's weapons were different. Intelligence, endurance, cooperation, stubbornness. He activated the station-wide comm. "Human Captain, I know you can hear me. Let us negotiate. You and your crew may leave. Take the other prisoners. We will not stop you. This hunt is over." Gina's voice came back immediately. "No, what do you mean, no? I am offering you freedom." "Freedom isn't enough. Justice is what I want." Gina's voice was calm and cold. "You've been killing innocent beings for a century. Thousands of lives, families who never knew what happened to their loved ones. You turned murder into entertainment. Freedom isn't enough. This station needs to be destroyed, and everyone in the galaxy needs to know what you've done." "That is not acceptable," Krell growled. "I don't care what you find acceptable. Here's what's going to happen. My engineer has control of your systems. My medic has secured all the prisoners. My pilot has planted explosive charges in your reactor core, and I've spent the last 5 hours proving that your hunters can't catch me. You're not in a position to negotiate. You're in a position to surrender." Krell slammed his fist on the console. "I am Alpha of the Vraks hunting clan. I do not surrender to prey." "Then you'll die like prey," Gina said simply. "You have 1 hour to release your remaining hunters to the escape pods. After that, I'm detonating this station. Anyone still aboard when that happens won't survive." She cut the comm link. Krell stared at the empty screens, his mind racing. He had hunted for decades, had killed prey from 100 different worlds. He was the Alpha, the best hunter in the clan. He refused to believe that 4 humans could defeat him. He stood and picked up his personal weapons. If his hunters had failed, he would do this himself. He would find the human captain and prove that Vraks were still the galaxy's apex predators. He would not let prey dictate terms to him. But as he left the control room, a small part of his mind whispered doubt. The humans had already done the impossible. They had turned his hunting ground against him. They had outlasted his best hunters. They had refused to be prey. Maybe, his doubt whispered, they were something more dangerous than he had ever encountered before. Krell moved through his station with weapons in hand. He had sent his remaining hunters to the escape pods, not because the human had ordered it, but because he wanted this kill for himself. This was personal now. This was about pride, about proving that Vraks were still the dominant hunters in the galaxy. He tracked Gina's movements through the security systems. She was in the central arena section, the pit, as his clan called it, the place where they brought prey for the final confrontations. It was fitting, he thought. She had chosen the arena herself, probably thinking the open space would give her advantages. She didn't understand that this was where he had killed his greatest prey. The pit was a massive circular room with high ceilings. Platforms and obstacles dotted the space, creating cover in tactical positions. Overhead lights cast dramatic shadows across the floor. Krell entered from the main entrance, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Gina stood in the center of the arena. She held only her plasma cutter, a tool designed for cutting through debris and metal, not a weapon. She looked small and fragile in the huge space. "You chose to face me," Krell said, his voice echoing in the arena. "I respect that, human. Most prey try to hide until the end. At least you have courage." "This isn't courage," Gina replied calmly. "This is necessity. My crew needs time to finish preparations. You're the last obstacle, so I'm removing you." Krell laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "You speak with confidence. But look at us, human. I am 8 feet of muscle, scale, and claw. I have hunted for 40 years. I have killed prey from 100 worlds. You are a small creature with a maintenance tool. How exactly do you plan to remove me?" "By being human," Gina said simply. Krell charged. His speed was incredible, covering the distance between them in seconds. His claws extended, ready to tear her apart, but Gina was already moving. She had been watching his leg muscles, had seen the tension building before he moved. She rolled to the side, and his claws scraped against the floor where she had been standing. She came up running, not toward an exit, but toward one of the support pillars. Krell spun and chased her. He was faster, his legs eating up the distance. But as he reached for her, she jumped and grabbed onto the maintenance ladder on the pillar's side. She climbed rapidly while Krell crashed into the pillar below. He looked up and saw her ascending. With a growl, he began to climb after her. His claws gave him excellent grip on the metal. He climbed faster than she did, his superior strength pulling him upward. But climbing took effort. His muscles burned with the exertion on top of the hours he had already been awake dealing with the human invasion. Gina reached a catwalk platform and pulled herself up. Krell was right behind her. He lunged onto the platform, his claws reaching for her. She ducked under his swipe and ran along the catwalk. Below them, the arena floor was 30 feet down. She reached the end of the catwalk and jumped, not down but across to another platform. She rolled as she landed and kept moving. Krell followed, making the jump easily with his powerful legs. But each movement, each jump, each burst of speed cost him energy, and the human just kept moving. They fought across the upper levels of the arena. Gina would slash at him with her plasma cutter, leaving shallow burns across his scales. None of the wounds were serious, but they added up. A cut here, a burn there. Small damages that individually meant nothing but together began to weaken him. Krell landed a hit, his claws raking across her shoulder. Gina cried out and stumbled. Blood darkened her uniform. Krell pressed his advantage, moving in for the kill. But Gina grabbed a loose pipe and swung it into his knee. The joint buckled and Krell fell to one knee with a roar of pain. She rolled away, putting distance between them. Her shoulder bled freely, but she kept moving. Always moving. Never stopping. Stand and fight, Krell shouted in frustration.
Fight with honor.
Honor is for sport, Gina said, breathing hard. This is extermination. She ran again, leading him on another chase through the arena. Up ladders, across platforms, through maintenance tunnels. Every movement was calculated. She was leading him through spaces that required constant physical effort, making him climb, jump, and run, burning his energy while carefully managing her own. An hour into the fight, Krell was slowing noticeably. His breaths came in gasps. His powerful muscles trembled with fatigue. Small wounds covered his body, none lethal but all painful. He had been awake for over 6 hours, fighting for most of that time. His body was screaming for rest. Gina's shoulder throbbed with pain, but she pushed it aside. Pain was just information. It told her she was injured but not dead. She could keep going. Humans always kept going. She led Krell to a section where steam vents lined the walls. Mireille had told her about these, safety releases for the station's heating system. Gina tapped her wrist display, sending a signal. The vents opened, filling the area with hot steam. Visibility dropped to nothing. Krell stumbled through the steam, trying to track her by sound, but the hissing steam covered all noise. He swung his claws at shadows, hitting nothing but air. Then he felt pain in his leg. She had cut his ankle tendon. He fell to one knee. The steam cleared, and he saw her standing 10 feet away. She looked exhausted. Blood soaked her shoulder, but she was still standing. Still fighting. Still refusing to quit. Why, he gasped. Why can't you just die like normal prey? Because I'm not prey, Gina said. She was breathing hard, her face pale from blood loss, but her eyes were focused and determined. I'm human. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We're the species that turned wolves into pets and made fire obey us. We're the species that looked at the stars and decided to go there. You think claws and strength make you a predator? You know nothing about what it means to be a hunter. She moved forward and Krell tried to stand. His legs wouldn't support him. Too tired. Too injured. Too beaten. He raised his claws in a final defensive gesture. Gina's plasma cutter flared to life. You hunted thousands of innocents. You turned murder into entertainment. You called it sport. But there's no sport in this. This is just ending a threat. She moved with sudden speed, ducking under his weakened guard. The plasma cutter sliced across his neck, severing the main artery. Krell collapsed, blood pooling around him. His vision dimmed. As darkness took him, he had one final thought. The humans weren't prey at all. They were something far more terrifying. They were the predators that never stopped hunting. Gina stood over his body, swaying slightly from blood loss. She activated her comm. Dongwu, I need medical attention. The Alpha is dead. On my way, Captain. The medic responded immediately. Tejo's voice came through. Charges are set. We can blow this place whenever you're ready. Not yet, Gina said. Mireille, have you finished copying all their records? Names of buyers, locations of other hunting stations, everything? Got it all, Captain. We have enough evidence to bring down their entire operation. Good. Gina looked around the arena, at the place where so many had died for entertainment. Get everyone to the ship. Once we're clear, we destroy this place, and then we make sure the whole galaxy knows what happened here. As her crew helped her back to their vessel, Gina felt no satisfaction in the kill, only grim determination. This was just one station, one clan. The Vrax Empire was vast, and hunting was part of their culture. The fight was far from over, but today prey had become predator. Today the hunted had become the hunter, and today the galaxy had learned something new about humanity. They didn't run from monsters. They ended them. Mireille moved through the maintenance tunnels like a ghost. Her engineering training had taught her that every station had hidden pathways for repairs and emergencies. The Vrax might control the main corridors, but they clearly hadn't bothered to secure these cramped spaces. Why would they? Prey didn't think tactically. Prey just ran. She found the engineering section after 20 minutes of careful crawling. Through a ventilation grate, she could see massive machines humming with power. 2 Vrax stood guard near the entrance. They were enormous creatures, easily 8 feet tall with thick scaled skin and clawed hands. Their heads reminded her of reptiles from Earth, but their eyes held cruel intelligence. Mireille pulled out her tablet and began analyzing the systems. Her suit had collected electromagnetic data as she moved through the station. The technology was alien but not incomprehensible. Power systems worked on universal principles. Heat needed to be vented. Atmosphere needed to be circulated. Gravity needed constant energy. She smiled grimly and started typing commands. Elsewhere in the station, Dongwu moved through the holding areas with growing horror. Cell after cell held prisoners. Most were alien species he had never seen before. A cluster of insect-like beings huddled together in one cell, their antennae twitching in fear. In another, a creature that looked like it belonged in water lay gasping in the dry air. "I'm here to help," he said softly, though he knew they probably couldn't understand him. He found the cell controls and started opening doors. The insect creatures chittered and clicked at each other. One approached him cautiously. Its translator device was old but functional. "You help? You not Vrax? I'm human. My name is Dongwu. How many of you are here?" "Many species. Many prisoners. Vrax bring us here for sport, for hunting. We are Chithin. Our people think we died in space accident. Vrax make it look like accident." Dongwu felt rage building in his chest. Not anymore. Today the hunting stops. "Can you help me free the others?" The Chithin bobbed its head and called to its companions. Together they began opening cells and helping the weakened prisoners. Many could barely walk. Some were injured. Dongwu used his medical supplies as best he could, but there were so many who needed help. On the upper levels, Gina and Tejo encountered their first Vrax hunter. The creature stepped around a corner and froze in surprise. It had expected to find cowering prey. Instead, it found Gina standing calmly in the center of the corridor. The Vrax growled something in its language and charged forward with shocking speed. Its claws extended, ready to tear and rend, but Gina had already calculated its path. She dove to the side at the last possible second, and the Vrax crashed into the wall behind her. Before it could recover, she activated her plasma cutter and sliced through the power coupling on the wall panel. Sparks erupted everywhere. The Vrax screamed as electricity arced through its body. It stumbled backward, smoke rising from its scales. "Tejo now," Gina shouted. The pilot had been waiting with a heavy piece of debris. He brought it down on the Vrax's head with all his strength. The creature collapsed and didn't move again. Both humans stood breathing hard, staring at what they had done. They had just killed a being that was bigger, stronger, and faster than them, but they had done it with planning and teamwork. "One down," Gina said quietly. "Unknown number to go." Her comm crackled. Mireille's voice came through. "Captain, I'm in their systems. You're not going to believe what I found. This station has been operating for over 100 years. Thousands of deaths. They bring species here, release them, and hunt them for entertainment. The Vrax record everything and sell the footage to wealthy patrons across their empire. Can you disrupt their systems?" Gina asked. "Already doing it. I'm venting atmosphere in sections where I detect Vrax heat signatures. Not enough to kill them, but enough to make them uncomfortable. I'm also messing with their gravity controls and lighting. They might be natural hunters, but they've gotten lazy relying on technology. Good work. Keep it up. Gina switched channels. Dongwu status? I've found the prisoners. Captain, there are dozens of them. Different species. Some have been here for months. They're terrified and weak, but I'm getting them to a secure location. The Chithin are helping me. Understood. Get them somewhere safe and barricade yourselves in. We're going to end this. Gina pulled up the station map again. She had been studying the Vrax movement patterns. They were spreading out, searching different sections. But their tactics were sloppy. They were used to prey that panicked and made noise. The humans were doing the opposite, staying quiet, staying smart, and picking their battles. Over the next hour, the station descended into chaos. Mirai continued her sabotage from engineering. Lights flickered on and off. Gravity shifted randomly, sending Vrax hunters stumbling. Doors locked and unlocked at random intervals. The environmental controls made some corridors freezing cold, while others became unbearably hot. Gina and Taiho worked together with brutal efficiency. They set traps using equipment from storage rooms. They created false trails that led hunters into dead ends. They used the station's own systems against its masters. When forced into direct confrontation, they fought dirty, using the environment, exploiting the Vrax's overconfidence, and always having an escape route planned. Taiho took a nasty cut across his arm during one fight, but he kept moving. The wound was bad, but not life-threatening. He wrapped it quickly and continued following Gina's lead. The Vrax were growing frustrated. Their prey wasn't acting like prey. Several hunters failed to report in. Others returned injured, speaking of humans who fought with strange tactics, who set ambushes, who used the station itself as a weapon. In the main control room, Krell watched the monitors with growing anger. This wasn't how hunts worked. Prey ran, prey hid, prey died screaming. These humans were doing something else entirely. They were fighting back with coordination and intelligence that shouldn't be possible. Enough, he growled to his remaining hunters. No more playing. Find them and kill them all. Show no mercy. But the hunters who went looking found only more traps, more ambushes, more confusion. The station that had been their perfect killing ground had turned against them. And somewhere in the corridors, the humans continued their methodical destruction of everything the Vrax had built. In the secured holding area, Dongwu worked to keep the rescued prisoners calm. The Chithin elder approached him with something like awe in its eyes. We thought prey could only run or die, it said through its translator. You humans teach us different lesson. Prey can become predator when it must. Dongwu smiled grimly while treating another patient. We're not predators by choice. We're survivors, and sometimes survival means fighting back. Throughout the station, the message was becoming clear. The Vrax had made a terrible mistake. They had captured humans expecting easy prey. Instead, they had released something far more dangerous into their hunting grounds. They had released a species that refused to be victims, a species that would fight with every tool and trick available, a species that had evolved by never giving up no matter the odds. The hunters were becoming the hunted, and they didn't know how to handle it. The silence of deep space surrounded the small exploration vessel as it drifted toward the strange structure. Captain Gina stood on the bridge, her dark eyes studying the massive station that hung in the void like a metal spiderweb. Nothing about this place appeared on any star charts. They had stumbled upon it by accident while mapping this sector of uncharted space. Something feels wrong about this, Taiho said from the pilot seat. His hands moved across the controls, bringing their ship closer to the station. No distress signals, no identification markers, nothing. Gina nodded slowly. But we need to investigate. If someone needs help out here, we're their only chance. She turned to the woman working at the engineering console. Mirai, can you scan for life signs? Mirai's fingers danced across her screen. Her face showed concentration as data streamed past her eyes. I'm picking up something. Multiple signatures, but they're faint. Could be people in stasis or just equipment running on backup power. Or a trap, Dongwu added from his medical station. The young medic had seen enough in his short career to be cautious. Gina considered their options. Protocol said they should report the finding and wait for a proper survey team. But that could take weeks, and if people were dying inside that station, they would be dead before help arrived. She made her decision. Taiho, dock us at that airlock. Everyone gear up. We go in together, we stay together. 20 minutes later, the four of them stood at the airlock connection. Each wore a standard exploration suit with emergency oxygen and basic tools. Gina carried a plasma cutter for working through debris. None of them were soldiers. They were explorers, scientists, people who came to space to discover and learn. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Emergency lights flickered in the corridor beyond, casting everything in a dim red glow. The air smelled stale but breathable. Gina stepped through first, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Stay alert," she whispered into her helmet comm. "Document everything." They moved through the corridors in a tight group. The station was enormous, far larger than it had looked from outside. Rooms branched off in every direction. Some held equipment that looked like monitoring stations. Others contained things that made Dongwu stop and stare in horror. "These are cells," he said, his voice tight. "These are cages." Gina looked at what he had found. Behind thick, transparent barriers were small rooms, each barely large enough for a person to stand and turn around. Scratch marks covered the walls. Some rooms still held bones. "What is this place?" Mirai whispered. Before anyone could answer, lights blazed to life throughout the station. The sudden brightness made them all flinch. Then speakers crackled to life and a voice filled the air. It spoke in a language they didn't know, but their suit translators quickly processed the words. "New prey has arrived," the voice said. It sounded pleased, almost excited. "How interesting. The systems tell me you are human. I have heard stories about your kind. Young species, weak, slow, but you explore bravely. I will give you that." Gina's hand moved to her comm to contact their ship, but static filled her ears. Jammed, they were cut off. "I am Krell, Alpha of the Vrax hunting clan. You have entered our hunting grounds. For centuries we have brought prey from across the galaxy to test themselves against the greatest hunters in existence. Some run, some hide, some even try to fight. All of them die eventually. That is the way of things. The strong hunt the weak." The voice paused, and they could hear something like laughter. "I am activating the hunting protocols now. You have 10 minutes before my hunters are released. I suggest you run. Run as fast as your weak human legs can carry you. Make this interesting for us." A roar echoed through the speakers, loud enough to make their teeth rattle. "Run, human!" Taiho grabbed Gina's arm. "We need to get back to the ship now." But Gina stood perfectly still. Her mind was already working, analyzing, planning. She thought about the layout they had seen, the choke points in the corridors, the environmental controls they had passed, the fact that their ship was docked and vulnerable. These Vrax had made their first mistake. They thought humans were just another prey species. They thought fear would make them scatter and run. She activated her comm to her crew only. When she spoke, her voice was calm and quiet, almost a whisper. "I don't run. I end hunts." Taiho stared at her. "Captain, we need to leave." "No." Gina turned to face her crew. "Listen to me. They've jammed our communications. Even if we reach the ship, they'll destroy it the moment we undock. We're trapped here, but so are they. They're expecting prey, creatures that panic and scatter. That's not what they're going to get." She pulled up a map on her wrist display, information their suits had recorded as they walked. "Mira, you know ships and stations better than anyone. Can you get to their engineering section and give us control of the environmental systems?" Mirai looked at the map, then nodded slowly. "Maybe, if their technology isn't too different from ours. Dongwu, those cells we found. If there are other prisoners here, they might still be alive. Can you search the holding areas and get them to safety?" The medic's face was pale, but he straightened his shoulders. "I can do that. Taiho, you're with me. We're going to map this place properly and find where these Vrax are coming from." She looked at each of them in turn. They think we're prey. They think we'll run in fear. They have no idea what humans are really capable of. Our ancestors didn't become the dominant species on Earth by running away. They did it by never giving up, by outlasting everything that tried to kill them, by turning the tables on predators. Another roar echoed through the station, closer this time. Heavy footsteps pounded in the distance. "We're not prey," Gina said quietly. "We're human, and if these Virax want to hunt us, they're about to learn a very painful lesson." She checked her plasma cutter and started moving deeper into the station. "Split up. Stay in contact. And remember, make every move count. We end this hunt our way." The crew separated, each moving to their assigned tasks. Behind them, the sounds of hunting grew louder. The Vrax were coming, expecting easy prey, They had no idea that the humans they were hunting came from a world where prey became predators, where persistence was more deadly than claws, where intelligence trumped strength. The hunt had begun, but not the way the Vrax expected. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a newborn star. From the bridge of their ship, Gina and her crew watched the hunting station tear itself apart. Metal twisted and shattered. Fires bloomed in the void before dying in the airless emptiness. Within minutes, nothing remained but debris and fading light. Dongwu finished bandaging Gina's shoulder. The wound had required 40 stitches, but she had refused sedation. She needed to be awake for this. Needed to see the end of the place where so many had suffered and died. All the prisoners are secured in our cargo bay, Dongwu reported. They're weak and scared, but they'll survive. The Chithan elder wants to speak with you. The insectoid alien approached Gina carefully, its translator device clicking as it processed language. You destroyed the hunting ground. You killed the Alpha, you freed us all. My people will tell stories of this day for generations. The day humans taught us that prey could fight back. We're not special, Gina said quietly. Any species could do what we did if pushed far enough. The Vrax just made the mistake of assuming we would react like other prey. They didn't understand that humans are different. Different how? The Chithan asked. Gina thought about how to explain it. On Earth, our world, humans were never the biggest or strongest creatures. We didn't have claws or fangs or armor, but we had brains and we had endurance and we had the ability to work together. We survived by being stubborn, by refusing to give up even when things seemed hopeless. That trait got us to the stars, and that trait is what saved us today. The Chithan touched her arm gently with one of its delicate limbs. Whatever the reason, you have our thanks. What will you do now? Now, Gina said. We make sure this never happens again. The journey to the Galactic Council took 3 weeks. During that time, Mirai worked to organize all the evidence they had gathered. Videos of hunts, financial records showing payments from wealthy Vrax citizens, communication logs discussing the capture of various species, manifests showing how many beings had been brought to the station over the decades. The data was damning and comprehensive. Taiho handled communications with the various species whose people they had rescued. Each rescued prisoner was able to contact their home worlds, letting families know they were alive. Some had been missing for years. Their returns would be miracles to those who had given up hope. When they finally arrived at the Galactic Council station, word of their mission had already spread. The freed prisoners had told their stories. News of the station's destruction had reached multiple worlds, and rumors of what humanity had done were circulating through diplomatic channels. The council chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Gina stood before them, her injured shoulder still wrapped but healing. The evidence they had gathered played on screens throughout the chamber. Videos of hunts, records of deaths, testimonies from survivors. Many council members watched in visible horror. Others seemed uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. A few appeared calculating, already thinking of political implications. The Vrax ambassador stood and spoke, his voice controlled but angry. The actions of the hunting clan do not represent our entire species. These were criminals operating in violation of Vrax law. That's a lie, Mirai interjected from her seat. I found your government records in their files. The hunting clans pay significant taxes to the Vrax Empire. Your government has known about this for decades and allowed it to continue. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted at each other. The Vrax ambassador tried to speak but was drowned out by accusations. The council speaker, an elderly member of the Thalos species, called for order. Once the room quieted, she addressed Gina directly. Captain, your actions have created a difficult situation. While we appreciate the rescue of the prisoners, you destroyed a Vrax facility and killed their citizens. Under galactic law, this could be considered an act of war. Under galactic law, Gina responded, the capture and murder of beings from other species is also illegal. Yet the Vrax have been doing this for over a century. Where was the council then? Where was galactic law when thousands were dying? The speaker had no answer. A representative from the Chithan homeworld stood. My people were told our missing citizens died in transport accidents. We mourned them. We built memorials, all while the Vrax were hunting them for sport. The humans did what this council should have done decades ago. They stopped the murders. They brought our people home. Other representatives began to speak, sharing similar stories. The Vrax had been careful, making deaths look like accidents or pirate attacks. The council had never investigated deeply. It was easier to accept the simple explanations than to dig for uncomfortable truths. The Vrax ambassador slammed his hand on his podium. If humanity pursues this matter, it will be considered an act of war. The Vrax Empire will respond with force. We have one of the largest military fleets in the galaxy. Humanity is a young species with limited resources. I suggest you consider carefully before making an enemy of us. The chamber went silent. It was a threat, clear and direct. Many representatives looked at Gina with sympathy but also caution. Nobody wanted to start a war. Gina stood perfectly still for a moment. Then she smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're right. Humanity is young. We've been in space for less than a century. Our fleet is small. Our colonies are few. By every logical measure, we should be afraid of you. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. But here's what you need to understand. Humanity didn't come to the stars to be anyone's prey. We came as what we've always been. Survivors, problem solvers, persistence hunters who never stop, never quit, and never forget. You threaten us with war? Fine. Let's talk about what that means. She activated a display showing Earth's history. This is our homeworld. For most of our existence, we fought against nature itself. Ice ages, predators, diseases, disasters, we survived all of it. Then we started fighting each other. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy cities. We did terrible things to our own species and nearly destroyed ourselves several times. The images shifted to show humanity's expansion into space. But we learned. We grew, we came together, and we brought all that history, all that experience in surviving impossible odds with us to the stars. You want to know what happens if you go to war with humanity? Gina's voice grew hard and cold. We will fight. We will adapt. We will find your weaknesses and exploit them. We won't quit after the first battle or the first year or the first decade. We will keep coming with the same persistence that let our ancestors hunt animals to exhaustion, with the same stubbornness that let us survive on a planet that tried to kill us, with the same creativity that took us from stone tools to starships. She looked directly at the Vrax ambassador. You asked if I know what it means to make an enemy of the Vrax Empire. I'll ask you the same question. Do you know what it means to make an enemy of humanity? Because if you start this war, we will finish it. And unlike your hunting games, there won't be entertainment value in it. It will just be one species that refuses to stop until the threat is eliminated. The chamber was completely silent now. The Vrax ambassador's scales had paled slightly. Other representatives stared at Gina with mixtures of fear and respect. The council speaker cleared her throat. This council will vote on sanctions against the Vrax Empire. All hunting operations must cease immediately. Full investigations will be conducted. Reparations will be paid to victims and their families. She looked at both Gina and the Vrax ambassador. As for the threat of war, both parties will stand down. Humanity will not pursue further direct action. The Vrax will not retaliate for the destruction of the hunting station. This matter is now under council jurisdiction. The Vrax ambassador started to protest, but several other representatives stood in support of the speaker's decision. The vote was called. The sanctions passed with overwhelming support. As the session ended, various representatives approached Gina. Some offered thanks. Others offered alliances. The Chithan ambassador clasped her hand and promised eternal friendship between their species. Others were more cautious, clearly worried about this new human tendency to fight back against impossible odds. Later, on their ship preparing to depart, Taiho asked Gina if she thought the Vrax would really accept the council's decision. Gina looked out at the stars through the view screen. No, they'll retaliate. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. Their pride won't let them accept what happened. Then why did you threaten them? Why make them angrier? Because they need to understand who they're dealing with. They need to know that humanity won't be prey. Ever. She turned to her crew. Get some rest. All of you. Something tells me we're going to be very busy soon.